Hey everybody, this is David here, aka Chessman, and I'm back to do another video about chess openings. And we're going to continue with the Ruy Lopez. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and check out this series, which is called the playlist is called A Serious Look into Chess Openings, and that should really help you with your chess openings. And yeah, so let's get to it. All right, the line that we're covering today goes e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles kingside, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, castles kingside, h3, and bishop d7. Bishop d7 is the key move. We've covered up to h3, and we've done different moves so far, but today we're covering bishop d7. Now the five best moves that white can make in this position goes as d4, bishop c2, rook e2, a3, and d3. So we're going to cover all five moves. And this is strictly from the computer. So those are the best moves from based on the engine, so Stockfish, and that's what I got all my information from. So the first move we're going to cover is d4. All right. So after d4, the best five moves that white could make goes in the order of a5 is the best. Next is rook e8, then h6, rook to b8, and queen to c8. All right. So I just show the best moves first. Like I start with the best. That way, because you may not need to know all these lines. It really depends. If you're playing with the white pieces, then you need to know all five lines. But if you're playing this only with the black pieces, then you might just learn the best one, which is a5 according to the engine. So yeah, so we're going to start with a5, and white should play bishop to d2, then black should play queen to b8, then bishop to c2, followed by h6, then d5, knight to d8, b3, c6, c4, queen c7, and c takes b5. These are the best moves that can be made from black and white, and this gives white a plus 0.57 advantage. And just so you know, this is what we had covered. So if you want to pause the video and write this down, you can, or type it. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to d4. We just covered a5. Now we're going to cover rook to e8. And I'm just going to highlight this for you so you know what I'm looking at. So if black plays rook to e8, then the best move that white can make is bishop to c2, followed by bishop to f8, knight b to d2, a5, knight f1, a4, knight g3, g6, bishop g5, h6, bishop to e3. This, after rook e8, this is the best that white and black can do from both sides. This gives white a plus 0.59 advantage, so 0.02 more advantageous for white than the previous moves. So it's basically the same. All right, so that was rook to e8. So again, we're back to after playing d4. The third best move that we're going to cover is this right here. Is black could play h6 and pass the move back to white. This also stops the bishop from coming to g5. After h6, the best that white can do is knight b to d2, followed by a5, then bishop to c2, a4, knight f1, rook e8, knight g3, bishop f8, where was I? Bishop to f8, bishop to e3, a3, and b3. This gives white a plus 0.71 advantage, so quite a bit more of an advantage, but it's still playable. And even if it's a really big advantage for white, I still show it because you need to know what to do when your opponent plays the best moves and what to do when they don't. So that's why, even though it's a plus 0.71 advantage, I still left it in here. Alright, so let's go back to d4. So we've covered a5, rook to e8, and h6. The fourth best move that can be played here is rook to b8. And after rook b8, the best that white could do again is knight b to d2, followed by rook to e8, then knight to f1, bishop to f8, knight to g3, h6, bishop to c2, b4, bishop d2, a5, and rook c1. Even if you don't memorize these lines, which you should, just seeing all the moves, you can see similarities, like playing knight b to d2 all the way to knight to g3. That's a pretty common pattern, so it's good to know it. Also, you see h6 a lot, bishop to f8 a lot, so a lot of similar moves. So it's good to kind of know, so you have a better idea what good moves look like in these positions. Alright, so let's go back to d4. And that gave white a plus 0.79 advantage. Alright, the fifth best move that black could play here is queen to c8. And after queen to c8, white should play bishop to g5, followed by h6, then bishop to h4, then rook to e8, knight b to d2 again, knight to h7, bishop to g3, bishop to f8, rook to c1, rook to b8, and a3. This actually gives white a plus 0.990 advantage, so quite a bit of an advantage, almost a full pawn, but I think it's still playable for both sides. So these are the best 5 moves that black can play after white plays d4. Alright, so we just covered d4 and we covered 5 moves after d4. So we're going to go back to bishop d7. The next move we're going to cover, we just covered d4. The next best move that white could play in this position is bishop to c2, just over protecting the e4 pawn. And the 5 best moves that black could play in this position are h6, rook to e8. You notice these moves are pretty similar. Queen to c8, a5, and queen to b8. So almost the same moves as when played d4. So if you're never sure what to play and you've seen these moves played a lot, they're probably decent enough moves to play, as long as there aren't any immediate tactics that make it bad. Then you should be okay in playing these moves. So the best move according to the engine here is black could play h6. Let me just highlight that for you. And after h6, white should play d4. What a surprise. And black should play rook to e8. Then again, knight b to d2. Again, bishop f8. Then again, knight to f1. Again, a5, b3, e takes d4, c takes d4, knight to b4, bishop to b1, and this gives white a plus 0.56 advantage, so half a pawn, but it's still playable from both sides. And so a lot of similar moves. There was a few new moves in the middle, but the knight's probably going to go to g3 again. The bishop's on f8, h6 was played, a5 was played. So a lot of similar moves. All right. All right. So where are we? Bishop c2. So we just covered h6. The next best move after h6 that can be played is rook to e8. And again, white should play d4. Then again, black should play h6. Then again, white should play knight b to d2. Again, black should play bishop f8. Again, white should play knight f1. Again, black should play a5. Then white should play b3. And e takes d4. Again, c takes d4, knight to b4. And bishop to b1. Oh, okay, I forgot to mention. Basically what happened was the first moves, rook e8, d4, h6. The previous example was h6, d4, rook e8. So the moves were just in reverse order. So the rest of the moves were the same. So so it's again plus 0.56 for white. That's the advantage. So we got the same position as before. All right, so let's go back to bishop c2. All right, the third best move that can be played here is queen to c8. And again, white should play d4. Again, black should play rook to e8. Then knight b to d2, h6, b3, bishop f8, a3, a5, bishop b2, queen b7, and rook to c1. This gives white a plus 0.72 advantage, but it's still playable from both sides. All right, let's go back to bishop c2. The fourth best move that could be played in this position is a5. And after a5, a4 should be played, then b4, then d4, b takes c3, b takes c3, h6, d5, knight b8, knight a3, c6, and knight takes e5. So this gives white a plus 0.80 advantage. And you get to, looks like, if the pawn takes the knight, I don't know, you have to figure this out. I'm not sure why you would sacrifice the knight. See what the engine says. No, I probably shouldn't. The engine doesn't work too well while I'm recording. Yeah, probably not a good idea. All right, so that's a5. Let's go back to bishop c2. So the fifth best move that can be played in this position is queen to b8. After queen to b8, again, white should play d4. Again, black should play a5. Then bishop g5, d5, knight. Let's see, where was I? Whoops. And after bishop g5, it's rook to d8, then d5, then knight to a7, b3, h6, bishop to e3, knight to c8, and c4. This is also a plus 0.80 advantage for white, but I think it's good for both sides. You're still waiting for your opponent to make a mistake, whether you're playing from the white side or the black side. So I think white has a little bit more space. That's probably the big thing. And there's a little bit more room for the pieces, but it's a closed position, so looks pretty even. Alright. So that was bishop to c2. So we've covered d4, we've covered bishop to c2. Now we're going to go back. So the third best move that white can play in this position is rook to e2. And the 5 best moves that black can play from this position is in the order of knight to a5, rook to e8, g5, h6, and queen to c8. Alright. So the first move, which is the best move according to the engine, is knight to a5. After knight to a5, bishop should go to c2. Then black should play c5, followed by d4, c takes d4, c takes d4, e takes d4, knight takes d4, rook to c8, then knight to d2, rook to e8, and knight f1. This gives white a plus 0.21 advantage, so hardly nothing. So it's pretty even for both sides. This is the best you can do from both sides, from white or as black. Alright, so that was knight to a5. So now we're back at rook to e8. Rook to e2, excuse me. White just played rook to e2. The second best move, instead of knight to a5, the second best move is rook to e8 from this position. After rook to e8, white should play d4. Black should play bishop to f8, then bishop to c2, e takes d4, c takes d4, knight b4, bishop b3, c5, a3, knight c6, and knight c3. This gives white a plus 0.26 advantage, so still hardly nothing, so still pretty playable from both sides. This is almost the best that black could do, except knight a5 was a little bit better, but hardly anything. It's pretty much even, so this or the other one, or the knight a5 move you could play with no problem. Alright, so let's go back to rook to e2. Alright. So the third best move that could be played in this position is g5. After g5, white should take, knight takes g5, then knight h5, rook e1, bishop takes g5, queen takes h5, king h8, d3, bishop takes c1, rook takes c1, rook g8, and knight d2. This gives white a plus 0.38 advantage, but it's still totally playable. And even though white's up a pawn, it's still playable for black. So there, it's g5. So let's go back to rook e2. So the fourth best move that could be played in this position is h6. After h6, bishop should go to c2. Then black should play a5. White should play a4. Then b4, d4, b takes c3, b takes c3, e takes d4, knight takes d4, rook e8, and f4. This gives white a plus 0.43 advantage, so almost half a pawn, but it's still playable from both sides. Alright, so let's go back to rook to e2. So any four of those moves are totally playable. And this fifth move is playable as well. The fifth best move that black could play is queen to c8. After queen to c8, white should play d4. Black should play h6. Then knight to b to d2. Then a5. Knight f1. rook e8, bishop c2, bishop f8, knight g3, a4, bishop d2. This gives white a plus 0.44 advantage, but it's still totally playable from both sides. And yep. So overall, rook e2 is a playable move, and you kind of have to know these moves. Most likely your opponent won't play perfectly, so if you don't, it kind of cancels each other out. But at least you know what some of the good moves are. But you should memorize them. It's good to memorize them. That way you know for sure that you're playing the best moves. Alright, so that was rook to e2. Let's go back one move. Now the next best move that can be played in this position from white is a3. After a3, black's 5 best moves is bishop to e6, h6, knight to a5, rook to e8, and queen to c8. So we're going to cover all those moves. The first move is bishop to e6. After bishop to e6, which is the best move, the best move that white could do is bishop takes e6. Then black should take back with the f-pawn. Then white should play d4. Black should play h6. Again, white should go knight b to d2. Black should go e takes d4. Then c takes d4. Queen d7. Queen b3. d5. E takes d5. This gives white a plus 0.37 advantage, but it's totally playable from both sides. Alright. So we just covered bishop e6. The second best move that can be played in this position is h6. After h6, white should play bishop to c2. Then black should play a5. Then a4, b4, d4, rook e8, knight b to d2, b takes c3, b takes c3, e takes d4, knight takes d4. This gives white a plus 0.50 advantage, but it's still pretty much equal. It's half a pawn, which is something, but it's still equal. Like it's not a winning advantage, that's for sure. Alright, so let's go back to a3. So we covered bishop to e6 and we covered h6. Now the third best move that can be played here is knight to a5. After knight to a5, bishop should go back to a2. Then black should play c5. Then d4. Then bishop to e6. Then b4. Then c takes b4. C takes b4. Knight to c4. Knight b to d2. Knight takes d2. Bishop takes d2. And this gives white a plus 0.56 advantage. And yeah, it's totally playable from both sides. Alright. Let's go back to a3. So the fourth best move that can be played in this position is rook to e8. After rook to e8, white should play d4. Then bishop should go to f8. Then knight to g5. Rook to e7. Knight f3. h6. Bishop c2. Rook e8. b3. E takes d4. And c takes d4. This gives white a plus 0.57 advantage, so 0.01 more advantage than the previous variation, but it's still totally playable from both sides. I think most of the advantage is white's 2 pawns in the center. So, yep, that's that. So, back to a3. So the fifth best move that could be played in this position is queen to c8. After queen to c8, white should play d4, then h6, bishop to c2, a5, b3, rook to e8, bishop to e3, bishop to f8, knight b to d2, queen b8, and a4. This actually gives white a plus 0.75 advantage, so quite a bit more of an advantage, 3/4 of a pawn. But it's still not a winning advantage. But still, if your opponent doesn't play the best moves, you got to know what to do when they don't. So that's why I put that in here. All right. So that was all 5 best moves against a3. So if we take a3 back, the last move we're going to cover is d3. And the 5 best moves that black can play in this position are as follows: knight to a5, rook to e8, h6, bishop to e6, and queen to c8. So we've seen these moves before. So those moves should stick in your head if you're playing this from the black side. That rook to e8 is a good move, h6 is a good move, queen to c8 is a good move, knight to a5 is a good move, and bishop to e6 is a good move. So, yeah. So the best move that can be played here is knight to a5, and white should respond with bishop to c2. Then black should play c5. White should play d4, and c takes d4, c takes d4, rook to c8, d5, knight to h5, bishop to d3, queen to e8, and knight to c3. This gives white a plus 0.50 advantage. Oh, looks like I have these ones out of order. Oh well. So knight a5 may not be the best option. Let me think. All right. That's okay. They're all playable moves. But if you look at this, the best move is queen to c8, because that gives white a plus 0.28 advantage. So that's the best black can do. Second best is rook to e8. This gives white a plus 0.35 advantage. Then bishop to e6 is the third best at 0.39. Then knight a5 with 0.50, and then h6 with 0.51. All right, so we're gonna go through them out of order, but that's okay. Sometimes we make mistakes. Okay. So that we're going back to d3. So the next move we're going to cover is rook to e8. All right. So basically, if you only want to learn the best variation, then learn queen to c8. Because that gives, by the computer, that gives you the best advantage if you're playing with black. So that's what you need to know. But if you're going to learn all of them, then it doesn't really matter which order, because they're all playable. All right, so after rook e8, white should play bishop c2, black should play bishop f8, then knight b to d2 again, and a5 again, a4, b4, d4, b takes c3, b takes c3, e takes d4, and knight takes d4. This gives white a plus 0.35 advantage, but again, totally playable. All right, so back to d3. So now we're covering h6, which gives, after this variation, it gives white a plus 0.51 advantage, which is the 5th best move you can play in this position. So we're covering this 3rd, but it's actually the 5th best move. Alright, so after h6, white should play d4, then black should play rook e8, then a3, then a5, then d5, knight to b8, c4, a4, bishop a2, b takes c4, knight c3. Like I said, this gives white a plus 0.51 advantage, but it's still totally playable. And yeah, interesting position. All right, so let's go back to d3. So this is the 3rd best option. 3rd best option is black plays bishop to e6. After bishop to e6, white should take, bishop takes e6, then black should capture back with f-pawn, then white should play knight b to d2, then queen to d7, a4, rook f to c8, knight to f1, b4, d4, b takes c3, b takes c3. Like I said, this gives white a plus 0.39 advantage, and it's totally playable for both sides. You just have to look at all these positions and then just figure out which ones you feel more comfortable in. So that's what you got to do to become a better chess player. Alright, that's one of the things you got to do. There's a lot of things you got to do in chess. Alright, so let's go back to d3. So it's funny we're covering this last. I guess that works out. The best move you can play in this position is, according to the engine, is queen to c8. And after queen to c8, white should play bishop to c2, and black should play h6. White should play d4, then a5, then bishop to d3, queen to b7, knight b to d2, rook f to e8, knight f1, bishop f8, and knight g3. Like I said, this gives white a plus 0.28 advantage, and it's the best you can do. So if you kind of like how the knights are placed and how the bishop is, and it's just where you're going to put this bishop, that's kind of the only problem, because it can't go to g5. Probably has to go to e3. But yeah. So those are all the moves we're covering today. So just to remind you, we covered the main line with bishop to d7. Let me just show you what we looked. So bishop to d7 in this position, and we covered the moves d4, bishop to c2, rook to e2, a3, and d3. So if you're playing this with the white pieces, you could just pick d4 and learn all the lines that we covered today in d4. If you're playing with the black pieces, then you kind of have to know a line from all of them. You don't need to learn every line, but you do need to know at least one line for each move. So one line for d4, one line for bishop c2, one line for rook d2, one line for a3, and one line for d3. And that should get you through the entire opening, because even if they don't play these moves, you've seen enough good moves played that you kind of have an idea what moves are good moves. So you know, like rook e8, h6, a5, queen to c8, bishop to e6, knight b to d2 for your white, bishop to c2, knight to f1, knight to g3. Though those are all good moves. d4 is a good move, d3 is a good move, a3. So you have an idea. So this should definitely help you in your games. So that's all for today. I'm probably going to come back on and play some rapid chess. But if you haven't already, check out my other videos. I did some Chessable courses today. I solved some puzzles, and I played some chess bots. So check out those videos. And again, this video is in my playlist called A Serious Look into Chess Openings. So you should be able to find something that you like. And I hope you have a great one. So I'll see you soon and see you later.